Welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I am Amarachi Ubani. Let's begin with a quick check on discussions in diplomatic circles.
Professor Tijani Mohammed Bande resumes this week as President of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Professor Mohammed Bande was elected President of the 74th session of the General Assembly by acclamation on Tuesday, June the 4th, to serve the one-year role with a strong mandate from his home government that nominated him and endorsed by the group of African states adopted unanimously also by the member states. His presidency of the Assembly comes 30 years after Nigeria's first opportunity to preside. Among his roles will be implementation of existing mandates for the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, with particular focus on peace and security, poverty eradication, zero hunger, quality education, and others. The Iranian government has accused the United States of deceit after Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the country was behind damaging drone attacks on 2 Saudi oil facilities. Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said blaming Iran wouldn't end the disaster in Yemen. Saudi Arabia said Saturday's strikes had halved its crude oil production to 5.7 million barrels a day. Protests in Hong Kong again turned violent this weekend as police used water cannon and tear gas to ward off protesters who threw petrol bombs and bricks near government offices in the city. The violence broke out after thousands of protesters marched in defiance of a police ban. Protesters reportedly threw bricks at police outside China's People's Liberation Army base, which is near the Hong Kong Parliament and government offices. They also set fire to a banner proclaiming the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. Police retaliated, opening water cannons, one of which caught fire after being hit by a petrol bomb.
It's been over a week since the violent protests in South Africa caused African nations to rethink relations with the country. Since then, Nigeria has brought back scores of people willing to leave everything behind and return to their fatherland. And you can see the relief on their faces, the delight of returning home as they alight the aircraft.
I went there to South Africa when I was just 6 years old. I used about 10 years there. So coming back, it's a new experience, so I'm happy. Yes, I feel safe because normally even to go to school, like we're scared to go to school and all that.
What exactly are they leaving behind? Now, businesses, families, and a life they have known for years, all left behind not because they want to, but because they have been forced to. Trade relations between Nigeria and South Africa has grown from approximately $2.1 billion in 2008 to about $3.6 billion by 2012, and at least 315 companies trading in both countries. But the bulk of the people returning are not those who work in blue-chip companies, but those who run small businesses, enough just to be able to provide for themselves and their families. And even before they were allowed to leave the country, the government of South Africa, we understand, brought up a new immigration policy, one of which was the cancellation of visas for some of the Nigerians, meaning that they would need to reapply for visas before being allowed back into the country. Now, I don't know about you, but this sounds like a blacklisting of Nigerians. It almost seems like, the attackers got what they want. Nigerians are leaving the country, and they're also ensuring they don't come back. The rest of Africa has been wounded by these xenophobic attacks targeted at mainly Nigerians and have taken action. According to the Zimbabwean ambassador to South Africa, David Hamadzripi, a total of 171 Zimbabweans were affected. 96 of them have decided to come home. The government of Zimbabwe paid for their repatriation. Reports say they left in 2 buses from Gauteng province on Thursday, September 12th. There are, of course, many more Zimbabweans in South Africa as they share a common border, which is easily crossed, and Shona is spoken in both countries. But for another South African neighbor, Mozambique, it's also been a tale of loss for them. The president, Filipe Nyusi, on Tuesday condemned the xenophobic incidents, issuing a stern condemnation of the act. A private-owned media reported that over 500 Mozambicans lost their homes due to the recent violence. The government is also working on the repatriation of affected nationals. So far, Ghana has confirmed 3 of its citizens were injured in the attacks. 5 of them were arrested. Madagascar called off an international football friendly with South Africa. Tanzania's Minister of Works, Transport and Communication, Isaac Kamwele, announced the suspension of scheduled flights to South Africa by the national carrier Air Tanzania, becoming the first airline to cancel flights to South Africa due to xenophobic violence targeted at mainly Nigerians. Air Tanzania will not be flying to South Africa until there is a written guarantee from the government that calm has been restored. More reactions have followed. Botswana has issued a South Africa travel advisory. Zambia shut down 3 South African malls and cancelled a football match with South Africa. You already know the developments here in Nigeria. The South African High Commission remains shut for now for security reasons. A telecoms company has also shut shops across the country, and police have been protecting South African-owned firms in Nigeria. In the meantime, the federal government will be giving those returning some stipend to help them get along to their final destinations. Meanwhile, the federal government is demanding compensation for those who've lost businesses as a result of the attacks in South Africa. The Nigeria-South Africa Joint Commission holds on the 26th of this month. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to attend the high-level talks. There are many thoughts on why South Africans are insecure about the presence of other African brothers in the country, but it is clear there is one major reason for migration, and that is opportunity. Added to that is basic infrastructure, both of which South Africa boasts of. Nigerians especially come into the country and take advantage of the enabling business environment, creating startups that people never knew existed, but have long been there all along. So where are the jobs? They've been there all along. I want to bring in researcher of transnational migration, return migration, policy analysis, identity and belonging politics, migration governance and migration economics at the Arnold Bergstreiser Institute in Freiburg, Germany, Dr. Kwaku Sam, who is currently in Cambridge. Dr. Sam, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you too.
Why are xenophobic attacks rampant in South Africa, a country that the rest of Africa helped deliver from the hands of apartheid?
Well, that's a very good question. I think what we should all be aware is that the xenophobic attacks in South Africa didn't start after apartheid. Actually, the period before apartheid, there were recorded cases of a lot of xenophobic attacks on foreign nationals. And we can see this in relation to Mozambique, at a time where, because of the conflict in Mozambique, the apartheid government even making provision to take in some refugees. You had black communities actually preventing that, stopping these refugees from coming. So this has a long period. It has a historical connotation to it. But in recent times, what we see happening, actually, it's a couple of it's made up of a couple of factors. First of all, we all are witness to the fact that the infrastructure in South Africa is quite improved, and you know from migration research and other indicators that migrants usually are attracted to countries where infrastructures for growth and for personal development, especially in the area of job creation and others, migrants are attracted to these places. And we can see that in the whole of the continent, I mean sub-Saharan Africa, we see South Africa as having these structures that are there. When African countries gained independence, there was this sense of nationalism, sense of entitlement that yes, now we have to take over charge of our own destiny, jobs and stuff like that. But when you have people experiencing these kind of unemployment, poverty rate, and the inequality gap, let me add that as well. So you still have large chunks of the economy or the populace, more than 70%, actually only benefiting from 7% of the total economy or the prospects of the country. And then
that's Dr. Kwaku. Whose fault is that?
Yes, this is the problem that we're coming to. So it is actually increasing. This inequality is increasing. It's increasing because of the failure of the government that takes over. And let us note this: when all these are happening, it is the responsibility of the government in power to take care of foreigners who come in. However, what have we seen from the past week? Yes, the rhetoric condemnation of the attacks has come in, but you see also ambassadors in different African countries actually, and the security forces in South Africa putting the blame on immigrants in terms of crime and all this. And however, we should note that South Africa doesn't collect data, criminal data on xenophobic attacks or this crime in terms of nationality and others. So how do they come up with these statistics? This is something that is questionable, but it has become an easy way for the government to run away from its responsibility. That's why I see it. So the infrastructures are there. There is a sense of entitlement that they have to be given the opportunity to enjoy what their benefit of what they went through. That is still fresh on their minds. If you go to countries that had independent long time ago, this sense of entitlement is actually going down because people are now realizing that, hey, you need to sit up and create jobs for yourself. You need to sit up and engage in businesses. And this is why other countries have gone ahead.
Dr. Kwaku, so it is inevitable that people will migrate towards countries like South Africa because migration is human nature. People tend to move towards where you have opportunities. So it behoves on the country then, as you say, if I'm hearing you correctly, it behoves on South Africa to make provision for the many more who will still come into South Africa to make a life and a living.
Yes, and that's it. Because let me give you this analysis. So any African who travels to South Africa, mostly on regular basis, so you have a lot of experience going to South Africa. They go there with some sort of financial resources to actually start something. They go to meet a populace that is in poor communities. So the moment they enter there, they are far better than the community they go to meet. Okay. So when they come and they invest their money in the system and people see that they are making progress, of course, they would associate that to the fact that they had come and prosper in the country, forgetting that people come in with already some level of resources. So the responsibility of the government is to continue to let the people understand that the people coming in, instead of just blocking them with criminality and all that, show the positive sides of migration as well, because migration is very positive for South Africa as well, and for the people who are engaging in that as well.
So a major solution then to mass migration, whether it is to South Africa or anywhere else for Africans, is good governance, an enabling environment, and of course the provision of basic amenities and infrastructure. How then can citizens keep their governments accountable in this regard? Because that's really the main problem, with many African countries.
Well said. Yes, and that's why you have a lot of migration governance experts always advising governments. Many people travel to where there are favorable conditions. So the responsibility, I mean, it is okay when the Nigerian government boycotted the World Economic Forum in South Africa, pulled their ambassador. These political gimmicks are okay. It's in the right direction. But the real truth is that there needs to be the infrastructural development, the enabling environment needs to be created in the home countries as well. So the responsibility, actually, I'll put it on all civil society, including the media. It's high time that we hold governments responsible towards simple, basic things in governance, making things work in our countries. It is very basic. When we don't see these basic structures improving, we cannot talk about the fact that we are retaliating what South Africa is doing and the rest. And I think that government and you see the Nigerian government responds to issue of shaming. This acting when it touches on the image of the government, when it touches on the image of the country, the government will react. So these approaches need to be adopted by the general populace to put pressure on the government. I mean, the sense of hopelessness and all these things needs to be reversed so that people see that when they put this same effort they put in other countries, in the home country, they can make something out of it.
Dr. Kwaku, it has been a pleasure speaking with you on Diplomatic Channel. Thanks again for joining us on the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.